Joining me now to talk about this, Congressman Mike Haridopolos. He's a Republican, but from Florida. Lauren Boebert is a no. Would you be a yes or a no?
Well, this is something that the president's got to push forward and talk about what the cost is and how that might impact the budget.
Am I hearing maybe?
I think we're going to hear the story. I mean, I'm not going to make a decision based on one comment. What I'm going to make a decision on is, can we eliminate the long-term threat of Iran, which has been plaguing our nation since 1979? As you know, Audie, I teach U.S. history for a living before I became a congressman. And what's incredibly frustrating is Iran has really ravaged this part of the world, killing their own people, tens of thousands just recently. And you see how they're firing on their own let's just say neighbors around the world.
So is that going to be your answer to the people in Florida who agree with her? And I ask because there is a strain of Republican within MAGA that is frustrated with the path the president has taken. And they are using arguments that sound very similar to what she says, that this is not America first.
Well, again, what I think we were talking about right now is let's see where this war goes. This has been a really challenging situation for all of us. We recognize, I hope everyone at this table is rooting for our team to actually win this conflict. The last person didn't seem like they were rooting for America. But the idea is that Iran is a major threat to this region, let alone the world. The last thing we need is a nuclear weapon in Iran. And let's hope that once and for all we can extract a victory from Iran, because they're just a nation that is simply purely evil. I mean, they killed their own people. You saw just this weekend they killed one of their own wrestlers. Who knows what's going to happen to these young ladies who just came back from a soccer tournament in Australia? And the quicker they're knocked out of power, the better. And making sure they never get a nuclear weapon. And you're seeing what they're doing to their own, again, their neighbors right now.
Let me follow up on
bombing
what
hotels
you're saying, because the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, actually was talking directly to the American people yesterday in his press briefing, and he talked about his own family. Let me play that for you.
My 13-year-old son popped into my office last night while I was editing these remarks.
He asked about the war.
And the families I met at Dover.
And I looked at him and I said,
they died for you, son.
So that
your generation doesn't have to deal with a nuclear Iran. It's the truth. And they did.
So to the
families who said, finish this, we will.
I want to talk about this. He was referring to families he met after dignified transfer, meaning loss. And I understand you have family members in the military. Are you prepared for boots on the ground?
That's something we do not want to do at all. Clearly, we believe that we have gained air superiority at this point. We have reduced their ability to use missiles, let alone drones, down about 90% since the height of the conflict. Again, this is a challenging situation because Iran is such a legitimate threat. They were trying to produce so many weapons that they could eventually create a nuclear weapon.
Would a vote for you on funding be conditional on whether or not boots on the ground are part of the ask and the plan?
Well, again, I think Mr. Secretary Hegseth has made the push for this funding. We're going to have that discussion. As you know, right now, we're in what we call the micro majority and the realities of it.
But that's your hard line is boots on the ground?
I think, again, this is where I want to actually base it on all the information in front of us. We're hearing a lot of different reports right now. I'm a person who's smart enough to take all the information before I make a final decision. But the last thing we want is boots on the ground. As you mentioned, our own son is in the United States military. And I'm very cognizant. I know what not only he, but all of his friends are thinking right now. And we're optimistic we can finally take Iran off the map. That is all of our goal. I hope we share that right here.
What do you want to hear from the administration before you make your decision on voting for $200 billion?
Well, I think we want to get a full debrief on where we're at in the war. I think we all recognize is that the capability of Iran has been dramatically reduced, and that is good for the world, let alone, of course, the United States of America. And the cost, when you always had this constant threat of Iran, is very high over years. As you know, we have bases in this region because of the threat of Iran. But I think what is remarkable about this whole conflict is that look at all of Iran's so-called neighbors. They're siding with us because Iran is so evil. And again, a nation would be willing to kill their own people shows you how radical they are. And I think we're getting very close to taking away that regime and allowing the people of Iran to finally take their country back. Because women in Iran don't have any rights at all. And what has happened since 1969 is just an absolute tragedy.
So it sounds like you're leaning toward supporting this the $200 billion.
What it sounds to me like is I'm going to take in information before I make a final decision.
Sure. What do you want? What do you want to know about the future of this conflict?
Well, I want to make sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, because if they're willing to do this with drones and some missiles, you can only imagine what they'd be willing to do the rest of the world with a nuclear weapon, and that's the goal here.
But Congressman, what about the reports about how you were never going to be able to take away the possibility of Iran having a nuclear weapon unless you put boots on the ground, because they have hid all of their material
underground.
So far underground.
Look, I remember when Barack Obama gave $150 billion to Iran, and they said that they would no longer seek a nuclear weapon. Guess what? They kept seeking.
That was Iran's
weapon.
money, first of all. You know that.
You're rooting for Iran's money?
No, I am not rooting for Iran.
And they gave him what do you think they gave?
It was
they
not
gave
the
him
United
$400 million
States
in actual cash. Do you think they get?
No,
they
we're
helped
trying
the
to
people
make
out?
sense of your answer.
But
you say you're waiting for more, but what is the more?
The more is one, information, but we have absolute air superiority right now. We have the power to knock out anyone we want, and the leadership structure is gone in Iran.
And yet,
and yet,
you're not a yes on $200 billion.
What we're at right now is this conflict is one where we think we can win long term, and this $200 billion number is a serious number, and I'm going to take it very seriously because the threat of Iran is real. But the better news is, compared to 3 weeks ago, they're less of a threat in that region long term, and I think that's a win for the United States and more importantly for the world and world peace.
Okay, Congressman Haridopolos, thank you so much for being here. Always.